And I got my little Goldie Locks and the three bears novelty clock with a bear that has moving eyes. I bought this thing off of eBay. The seller was selling it with the best offer price. So I sent him an offer. He declined it. I raised my offer $1 and he accepted it. Because they're novelty clocks, the movements are not easily accessible. As you see, when the pendulum moves back and forth, the eyes move back and forth. I've done that with my fingers. The hands are broke, so the first thing I need to do is take the hands off. The minute hand's broke, and it's tight on there. And so, Jordan, this is for you. Take a pair of tweezers, stick it on both sides, and just push. And the hand popped off. Of course, it made the hour hand, but the broken piece of hand popped off. And it popped off around here somewhere, but I don't know where it went. But this part here, I gotta figure out how to get off. These novelty clocks are all different. I'll look at it under a microscope. As you can see, it doesn't look threaded. All that is to hold the minute hand. So I'm going to do the same thing with my tweezers and try to get that thing off. I'm going to put a drop of oil on it first and let it soak. I just got out of the shower and I washed my feet. Because I work on clocks in here and because I use a Dremel with wire brushes, the little pieces of the wire brush come off, get my floor, and they get my feet, and then after a week or two, my foot starts hurting. But I just got out of the shower and I washed my feet. And you see how dirty my feet still are. And I scrubbed pretty hard on them. I tried this the other day, and I'm going to do it again on video so y'all can see it. Now this can of Sprayway sucks because it leaks. I think they ought to put this in the medical field for when soldiers are injured, that way you can clean off the wound. You see how dirty that napkin got? And again, I just got out of the shower where I scrubbed my feet. And so now my feet are a lot cleaner. And I didn't have to do anything. You know, when I was in the shower, I was sitting there scrubbing and rubbing and putting forth the effort. But with this stuff, you just spray it on and wipe it off. Again, I think they need to add this to combat medical field to clean the wounds. I don't know if ammonia is good for your bloodstream or not, but it would be a lot better than getting septic from being infected, don't you think? So, for the generals and leaders in the military that are watching my YouTube videos, you might want to consider adding this stuff to the combat kit for medical personnel. Just my thoughts. Just like flour. I don't know if you all know this or not, but if you're bleeding really bad, if you throw flour on the wound, it'll stop the bleeding almost immediately. Here, several years ago, my dad was walking across the street and he fell and hit his head. And he was bleeding ferociously out of his head. And so I'm like, Mom, what did that Facebook posting say about how to stop bleeding? And she was panicking. She couldn't remember anything. Finally, I remembered. It was flour. So we grabbed some flour. We tried everything. Bandages. Nothing was stopping this bleeding. And he refused to go to the hospital. I think the Donovan Hospital had closed at that time frame. And so I'm like, it was flour. So we grabbed some flour and dumped it on his head, and the bleeding stopped almost immediately. It clogs up the blood. And so spray away glass cleaner and flour. They need to add to the emergency medical survivors kit, combat training, combat medical bags, etc. My opinion. Okay, it's been soaking for a little bit now, so I'm going to see if I could get this thing off. And again, I don't know if it screws down or whether it is pressed on. If it screws down, it's going to be hard to get that thing off. Let's see what turns when I rotate this thing. Hey, I can't rotate it because I don't have a big enough grip on me. They made all these things differently. Somebody might have glued this thing on. I have a bigger pair of tweezers. I'm going to try that. Voila. Y'all saw me live on video using a pair of tweezers. And then all you have to do is pull the hour hand off, which is friction fit. And again, I talk about this all the time. I use a pair of dikes, side cutters, a lot because the way they are designed, I'm not cutting nothing. The way they're designed, I'm just going to put that thing back on and show you what I'm talking about. I'll just put the hour hand on. Just a little bit. The way they are designed, you stick them underneath and you you squeeze, and the way they're designed, they pull the stuff up. Same way with the tweezers. And sometimes you might have to start off with a pair of smaller tweezers before you get to a pair of bigger tweezers. But anyway, we did all that to take this dial off. And the dials are normally glued on to get to those two screws. And that's how you get the movement out. It says it's made by Linden. And here it says, I can't read that, J. Hauser. No jewels adjusted, made in Germany. But my daughter, who just got engaged on Christmas Eve, was over at my house yesterday when I got this clock in. And I thought it was a different clock. I bought a clock for my son-in-law because he raises cattle, him and his mom and dad. But it was this clock. And my daughter's like, oh, Dad, Wayne calls me his little mama bear, and I call him Papa Bear. So guess who's gonna get this clock? This particular clock is easily workable because you undo these 4 nuts and you can take the plates apart, but this movement isn't that dirty, and I'm not going to take it apart. All I'm going to do is I oiled the back. All I'm going to do is oil the front, because you can see it's trying to tick right there, and so all it needs is a drink. So I'm going to do that off camera. I decided I'm going to go ahead and take this movement apart. These little metal pieces right here are the clicks that go into those slots. But when you turn the key, it does come out, but there's 2 of them. I got a zip tie around the spring. What I'm gonna do is take this top nut off. And when I take out the verge, it's gonna spin freely. Now I have the plastic wheels that I'm holding. I'm going to hold the next wheel so I can take this plastic wheel out. And there we go. Now the power's off, so now I can take the rest of these nuts off. And I already got my pictures. And doing a video while you're doing things helps also. Now, you see how they go. And so it was kind of, I got to looking at it, it was kind of dirty. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my ultrasonic cleaner and clean it up. I would suggest, if this is your first time doing these things, you put gloves on. I've got tough hands, and these springs, they're not that powerful. You know, they're 30-hour springs. But, you know, something could always go wrong. That's all there is. And so, you want to take the wheel out of the spring so you can clean up the spring. There's a hole in that spring that catches this notch, so you have to remember how to put it back together. And taking some WD-40 or whatever you have to clean up these springs, and then make sure afterwards you rinse that WD-40 or whatever you have off, or it'll continue eating up the spring. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up off camera. I have a hole in my desk for bigger springs. I poke a screwdriver down through the catch of the spring. I put a pair of vice grips underneath my desk so that screwdriver doesn't come out. This is a small spring, and I'm going to try this spray away glass cleaner on it. I got the screwdriver in my vise, and I'm using another screwdriver to pull it out. Again, I highly recommend that you wear gloves, safety equipment, glasses, because when you're doing this part right here, this spring could snap on you. And it's no big deal if you couldn't get it all the way. Here's a Q-tip, and clean it the best you can. You can order these things off of Time Savers if you need to. And if you can't hold on to the Q-tip, grab a pair of pliers and continue on. Go from the other way. And that spring looks really clean. I'm going to rinse it off because I told you whatever you put on it, make sure you rinse it off so it doesn't continue eating away. And a lot of people say, well, Mark, when you do this, you're going to set the spring. setting the spring is where it bows. And as you can see, that spring is nice and flat. And so, you don't have to have spring winders and stuff like that. And I don't think a spring winder is going to work with these little novelty clocks. So you have to be able to do what you got to be able to do to get these clocks working. Like every other clock, you want to moisturize the wood. I use Howard beading wax to include the inside. That way the wood needs a drink. That way it stays preserved. But I think it looks pretty good. Now I had the parts in my ultrasonic cleaner for 5 minutes, 35 degrees Celsius. I rinsed them off twice in water. Now they're in my ice cream bucket that has holes all around it with the hairdryer on low. And I'll leave that in there for about 5 minutes and it should dry every part up. In the meantime, using some Keystone mainspring lubricant, thanks to a good friend of mine, Cheryl, I'm going to lubricate this spring. Got some on a Q-tip, and I'm going to run it around this spring. Doing the same thing on the other side, just because I like overkill, I guess. And because when you get to this very last portion, it's hard to grab everything and to rotate the Q-tip. So it can be done. You just got to be patient. The mainspring lubricant is a little bit thicker lubricant, and Keystone, it's a little bit thicker lubricant. It's used for mainsprings, as the name applies. And so it's ready to go back. Now you gotta put the winding arbor back in. Remember I told you that this little tab catches that hole in the spring. So which way does it go, Mark? Well, it winds this way, and as you can see, the loop is going counterclockwise, so I need to flip it over because the tab is there. And you just give it a twist and pull it out to see if it catches. And now I'm just gonna wind this thing up. Actually, I'm gonna show you how you can do it better. And it came out. It'll catch after. If it doesn't stay in, well, now it's staying in. No, I take that back. You take a pair of needle nose pliers or a screwdriver or something, and you make that loop smaller. And so, let's see if I can get the screwdriver in and make that loop smaller, which I think I did. So anyway, I probably need to look at my pictures. And I probably need to put this thing on correctly. Once you put this on correctly, sorry, I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. The minute wheel center arbor is going to grab a hold of the great wheel. Alright? And so I need to grab a couple of nuts. Stand by. Even though I have plenty of zip ties, all you gotta do is put something flat to catch that tab and pull the thing apart. Now I have a couple of nuts on, and so now you have to put something in the minute wheel center arbor so it doesn't rotate. So that's what that pair of tweezers are for. And so now, because the minute wheel center arbor can't rotate, I should be able to wind this clock up. And I don't know whether I got the spring catch on the right post or not. It don't matter at this point. So now I'm grabbing my zip tie and put it back around the spring, and you only want to go around the spring itself and snug it up. And if you bent the catch too much, guess what? You gotta get another zip tie. They're cheap. Of course, I'm selecting the appropriate zip tie for this spring. I don't want to use a heavy-duty one. And so now, because I got the spring tied up, I can remove my tweezers. I'm going to put my fingers in here, because when I let go of my finger, it's going to spin a little bit. So now I can take it back apart and put all the parts together. And just for those people who don't think I don't take pictures, I do. Not all the time, but most of the time I do. And I want to be able to look at my pictures to determine which section of the spring where that spring catches. And so now I can see that. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but I thought of this while I was waiting for my videos to download in my computer. Let's say you don't have a back door. You could take something like, this is a divider for one of the little cabinets up there, you could take a hard piece of plastic and cut it down to make yourself a back door. The back door is what has the hole in it, and believe it or not, the plastic back doors that are see-through is a lot easier to figure out what's going on with your movement versus a wooden back door after you got it all on. And so I like the plastic back doors myself. But the back door in this case, it serves two purposes. It's how you hang your clock because of this hole, and it's a dust cover to prevent dirt and crap from getting in your movement. And this back door, like I said, these clocks are all made differently. I just happen to have a novelty clock right here. You see the difference in the size of the doors? Big difference. I got way too much crap on my desk. But anyway, I know where this spring goes now, and it goes on this side. And I'm going to verify that. You see it? It goes on this side over here, which is where I have it. And so putting the movement back together. You can do this however way you want. It might be easier to get the spring in the minute wheel with center arbor in, and then carefully put the rest of the parts in. After you put the two bottom nuts, because the reason why I say that is because the spring is pushing on the movement, and so it might be easier to do it part way, but when you do it this way, be gentle. Don't force the parts in. So I'm gonna put this thing together off camera. Again, I do have pictures, and I can see the metal wheel that goes on that, which is this wheel right here. But let's say that your pictures don't come out clear enough. As long as you understand that a wheel matches up with a gear, you should be able to put the clock together. And I've got other videos that talk about this. This is the wheel. This piece right here that has all these teeth. This is a gear. It's either a lantern gear or a pinion gear. A lantern gear is made out of wires. A pinion gear is solid. So this wheel is not hooking up to anything yet. This pinion gear is what matches up with the minute wheel with center arbor. So as long as you understand how a clock works, you can figure it out without having to, without your pictures Now, you also, as Just Mike says in his videos, if you separate your parts, the stuff that go on outside of the movements, that way you don't get confused. This is the hour pipe, and it goes right here. And this is the intermediate wheel, which goes over here, I think. But anyway, these parts go on the outside of the movement, and so separate them so you don't get confused as to what goes where. This wheel is the next wheel that matches up. And again, the pinion gear, a pinion gear is going to have to match up with this wheel in order for the train to continue to work. And so the question is, does it go in like this or does it go in like this? And again, if you don't have pictures, you could figure it out by a little bit of trial and error. And in this case, it don't go here because this wheel is hitting this post. So I just wanted to show you that because I already knew where it went. Again, a little bit of trial and error is how you figure out how clocks go together. And if you're working with an expensive movement, you want to make sure that you take better pictures. And in this case, I think I'm putting it in upside down, so I'm going to look at my picture. I'm putting it in upside down. It goes the other way. And don't worry if other parts get out of place, you could put them back. Because the first gear that I put in, it got out of place. Now I just gotta put it back. Again, when you're doing an install like this, you don't want to force anything. Especially because you have plastic parts, you will break pivots off. So now, it's together, and I go on to the next step. Again, I just wanted to show you that if your pictures didn't turn out or you forgot to take pictures, as long as you know that wheels connect to pinion gears or lantern gears, you'll figure out how the clock goes together. And I'm going to finish putting this together off camera. So now I have the movement back together. And by the way, the escapement wheel, it can fit over here where these two holes are. All right. However, the virgin crutch assembly, it's backwards. The part where the pedaling goes would be on the front of the movement, and that's not how it works. I'm sure this movement was designed for different clocks. So I told you my friend Cheryl gave me the Keystone mainspring lubricant. Well, I sent her a Christmas present, all right? And I told her that I did not want anything in return. Well, she sends me the Keystone mainspring lubricant. Well, I sent my friend Mike, Just Mike, who, Cheryl Adair's Repairs. I mentioned their channels in every one of my videos. So subscribe to their channels. They do a great job. Cheryl's a lot better teacher than I will ever be. And Mike, he repairs clocks with ease, where I get upset. I get upset mainly because I get people contacting me all the time, want me to help them out, and so my internet's down again today, and I'm loving it because nobody's contacting me, so I can work on clocks. And so, mainly, most of the time, my YouTube videos they might take me 2 or 3 weeks to fix one clock, and it's because I'm a busy person. It's the life I chose. Anyway, Mike, because I sent him a Christmas present. I told him, Mike, I don't want anything in return. There's nothing that you can send me in return, unless there's a cute little blonde that you could find and put in a box, willing to come to my house, but she has to like clocks. That's a joke, folks. But anyway, he sent me this, and this is original oil in it, and I think it might be too. It's a precision oil pen, and the way it's supposed to work is you push it in and it leaves oil, and then you pull it out and it sucks the excess back. But so far, I haven't been able to get it to suck the excess back. So you see what I'm talking about? So I have to have a Q-tip on hand to wipe off the excess oil. He told me they were tricky and that you have to figure them out. And one day I'll figure it out, but not today. But it's really great to have friends, and you won't only want to oil the parts that go round and round. So oiling the pivots is what I'm oiling, or you have to oil the pivot on the bridge and crutch assembly. There's a lot of oil being wasted because I don't know how to use this thing. It might be broken. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And then the next thing you want to oil is the pallets. And that's where I'm going to get out some oil on a toothpick. The pallets is what goes back and forth on the escapement wheel. This is a crutch assembly. This is the bridge assembly. And at the end of the bridge assembly, there are two rocker arms. And you oil the inside of those rocker arms, which are called pallets. And then you make the thing go around on the clock, and it's going to disseminate the oil onto the escapement wheel. And so I got the spring on. There we go. So the movement is oiled. You can put a drop of oil on the shaft to allow the hour pipe to go around freely. And you can put a drop of oil on this pivot because it goes right here. The whole purpose behind this intermediate wheel is so if it didn't have this intermediate wheel on, the hour hand and minute hand would just spin really fast. And I'm going to show you that. Let me put the hour hand on. You see that? So that's the purpose behind this intermediate wheel, is to slow things down. So now it ain't gonna move that fast, and it's only gonna move when the minute wheel center arbor moves, because that pinion gear is matched up to the wheel on the great wheel. And so I need to put my oil up before I spill it all over my desk. Last thing I need to do is get rid of this zip tie. So I'm just going to cut it. Like I said, I have plenty. And so, there we go, ticking back and forth. Now these wires is what makes the eyes move back and forth. And of course you got to take the hour hand off to put this back into the case. And so what you want to do, you want to make sure that hour pipe and intermediate wheel don't come off, is you want to slide this thing in, catching the eyeballs. And then connect your screws. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm not going to use this because the swing doesn't go back and forth. It goes front to back. But I'm just showing you that you can make a pendulum out of whatever you want. That pendulum is actually for a United swingers clock, I believe. And there we have it. I hope y'all like this video. Please leave me some comments. Please subscribe not only to my channel, but to all the other channels mentioned at the beginning of this video. And like I said, it says on there, Mr. and Mrs. Osborne. May God bless each and every one of you. And by the way, I know I left the dial off, but I like that dial because it says Linden on it better than this dial. That is the dial that originally came with it. Somebody added this dial.